My brothers and sisters, imagine for a moment that tonight was the last night of Ramadan you would ever see. Imagine that the next Ramadan would arrive, but your name would not be among those who witness it. Imagine that the final 10 nights, the nights in which Allah's mercy descends, the nights in which destinies are written, are approaching, and this might be your only chance to stand in them. Subhanallah, we rarely think like this. We assume there will always be another Ramadan, another chance, another opportunity to change. But Ramadan does not wait for anyone. The days are already passing. 16 fasts are already gone. The final 10 nights are approaching quickly. And the truth is simple. Those nights will either elevate you closer to Allah or they will pass like ordinary nights. And the difference between those two outcomes is something many people forget to fix before those nights arrive. Tonight, I want to remind you of something powerful. Before the last 10 nights of Ramadan arrive, fix this first. My brothers and sisters, before we talk about prayers, before we talk about reciting the Quran, before we talk about standing in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, there is something even more important that must be fixed first. The heart. Because the reality is simple. Two people can stand in the same prayer, recite the same verses, and perform the same acts of worship, yet the reward between them can be as different as the distance between the earth and the sky. Why? Because Allah does not only look at what the body is doing, Allah looks at what is inside the heart. Many people increase their actions in Ramadan. They attend Taraweeh, they recite the Quran, they give charity. These are beautiful acts of worship. But sometimes the heart remains distracted. The body is in the masjid, but the mind is thinking about the dunya. The tongue is reciting the Quran, but the heart is not reflecting on the words. And slowly, without realizing it, worship becomes a routine rather than a connection with Allah. My brothers and sisters, the last 10 nights are not about how long you stand. They are about how present your heart is when you stand. A heart that is awake for a few sincere moments may receive more mercy than a heart that stands for hours without reflection. That is why, before the last 10 nights arrive, we must fix the state of our hearts. Ask yourself honestly tonight, when I stand in prayer, am I truly speaking to Allah? When I make dua, do I feel that Allah is listening to me? When I read the Quran, do I pause and think about what Allah is telling me? Because the heart is the center of everything. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us that in the body there is a piece of flesh. If it becomes good, the entire body becomes good. And if it becomes corrupted, the entire body becomes corrupted. And that piece of flesh is the heart. So the believer who wants a powerful Ramadan must begin by repairing the heart. Clean it from arrogance, clean it from jealousy, clean it from the love of showing off to people. Replace those feelings with sincerity, humility, and love for Allah. When the heart becomes sincere, something beautiful begins to happen. Your prayer starts to feel different. Your recitation of the Quran starts to feel deeper. Your dua begins to come from a place of honesty. Suddenly the acts of worship are no longer just movements of the body. They become conversations with your Lord. My brothers and sisters, imagine standing in the last 10 nights with a heart that is fully turned toward Allah. Imagine raising your hands in dua with complete certainty that Allah hears every word you say. Imagine placing your forehead on the ground in sujood while your heart feels complete peace. This is the power of a heart that is connected to Allah. And the beautiful thing is this, Allah is always ready to accept the return of His servant. Even if your heart has been distant for years, even if you feel that your faith has become weak, one sincere moment of turning back to Allah can change everything. That moment can happen tonight. So before the last 10 nights of Ramadan arrive, fix the heart first. Because when the heart becomes sincere, every act of worship becomes powerful. And a sincere heart during the last 10 nights may receive the mercy of Allah in ways that change a person's entire life. My brothers and sisters, the second thing that must be corrected before the last 10 nights arrive is the way we approach Allah. Many people worship Allah, but deep inside their hearts there is hesitation. Some people feel unworthy of Allah's mercy because of their past. They remember the sins they committed, the mistakes they made, and the moments when they ignored the commands of Allah. Slowly, a dangerous thought begins to grow in the heart. A person begins to feel that perhaps Allah will not forgive them. But this is exactly what Shaitan wants you to believe. Shaitan does not only try to make people commit sins, After the sin happens, he whispers something even more dangerous. He tries to convince the person that they are too far from Allah to return. But the Quran teaches us something completely different. Allah reminds us of His incredible mercy in a verse that should bring comfort to every believer. Allah says, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My mercy encompasses all things. Look carefully at the power of these words. Allah did not say His mercy is limited. Allah did not say His mercy reaches only certain people. Allah says His mercy encompasses everything, every human being, every mistake, every moment of regret, every sincere tear. When a servant turns back to Allah with sincerity, Allah welcomes that return in a way that we cannot even imagine. The last 10 nights of Ramadan are nights when the mercy of Allah descends upon the earth in an extraordinary way. These are nights when Allah forgives sins that people thought could never be forgiven. These are nights when hearts that were once distant suddenly become close to Allah again. But the key is how you approach Allah. Do you approach Him with doubt? Or do you approach Him with hope? A believer should always approach Allah with hope and humility at the same time. Hope that Allah will forgive them, and humility because they recognize their need for His mercy. Think about a child who makes a mistake. When that child returns to a loving parent with regret, the parent does not push them away. Instead, the parent embraces them and forgives them. Now imagine the mercy of Allah, the most merciful. Allah's mercy is greater than any mercy we can imagine in this world. So when the last 10 nights arrive, raise your hands without hesitation. Ask Allah to forgive your past. Ask Allah to guide your future. Ask Allah to fix the broken parts of your heart. Speak to Allah honestly, because He already knows everything about you. He knows your struggles. He knows your fears. He knows the silent battles you are fighting inside. And when a servant approaches Allah with sincerity, Allah never turns that servant away. Sometimes a single sincere moment of turning back to Allah is enough for Him to forgive years of mistakes. That is why before the last 10 nights arrive, fix the way you approach Allah. Come to Him with a heart full of hope. Come to Him with humility. Come to Him believing that His mercy is greater than every sin you have ever committed. Because the servant who approaches Allah like this will find doors of mercy opening in ways they never expected. My brothers and sisters, after fixing the heart and fixing the way we approach Allah, the third thing that must be corrected before the last 10 nights of Ramadan arrive is something many people overlook: our daily habits. Sometimes we imagine that the biggest barrier between us and Allah is a major sin. But very often, the real problem is not one big sin. The real problem is the small habits that quietly steal our time, our focus, and our connection with Allah. Think about how quickly a day in Ramadan passes. You wake up for suhoor, you fast during the day, you break your fast at Maghrib, you pray Taraweeh, and before you realize it, the night has already ended. Days pass one after another until suddenly the last 10 nights arrive. But if we look honestly at how we spend our time, we will notice something very worrying. Many hours disappear into things that bring no benefit. A person picks up their phone for a few minutes and suddenly an hour has passed. Another person sits down to rest after iftar and ends up spending the entire evening scrolling through endless distractions. Conversations that bring no benefit stretch for hours while the opportunities for worship slowly slip away. These habits may seem small, but their impact is huge. Because time is the most valuable gift Allah has given us. Once a moment passes, it never returns. The last 10 nights of Ramadan contain a night that is better than 1,000 months. That means one night carries more reward than more than 80 years of worship. Now think about this carefully. What if Laylatul Qadr arrives while a person is busy with their phone? What if the night of immense mercy arrives while a person is distracted with things that have no value in the sight of Allah? Subhanallah. The opportunity that could have changed a person's entire destiny may pass without them even realizing it. That is why before the last 10 nights arrive, we must fix the habits that are stealing our Ramadan. Start by protecting your time. Reduce the things that distract you. Limit the hours spent on social media. Avoid conversations that lead to gossip or negativity. Be mindful of how quickly the night can disappear. Instead, replace those habits with things that bring you closer to Allah. Spend time with the Quran. Sit quietly and make sincere dua. Reflect on your life and your relationship with Allah. Even a few moments of deep reflection can transform the heart. Allah reminds us in the Quran, Wal asri, innal insana lafi khusrin. By time, indeed, mankind is in loss. These powerful words remind us that time itself is a witness against us. Every moment that passes is either bringing us closer to Allah or taking us further away. The believer understands the value of time, especially during Ramadan. That is why the righteous people before us treated the last 10 nights differently from the rest of the month. They reduced their distractions, they increased their worship, and they focused completely on seeking the mercy of Allah. They knew that these nights were not ordinary nights. If we want the last 10 nights to transform our lives, we must begin preparing now. Look honestly at your habits. Ask yourself what is stealing your time. Ask yourself which activities leave your heart empty rather than full. Then begin replacing those habits with acts that bring you closer to Allah. Because the believer who protects their time protects their akhirah. And sometimes the difference between a wasted Ramadan and a life-changing Ramadan is simply how a person chooses to spend their nights. Before the last 10 nights arrive, fix the habits that are quietly stealing your most precious moments. If you do this sincerely, those nights may become the most powerful nights of your entire life. My brothers and sisters, the fourth thing that must be repaired before the last 10 nights of Ramadan arrive is your relationship with the Quran. Ramadan is not just the month of fasting. Ramadan is the month of the Quran. It is the month in which the words of Allah were sent down as guidance, mercy, and light for humanity. Every Ramadan is meant to reconnect the believer with the book of Allah. Yet if we look honestly at our lives, many of us have allowed distance to grow between us and the Quran. Sometimes the Quran is recited quickly just to complete pages. Sometimes it is heard during Taraweeh while the mind is wandering somewhere else. Sometimes days pass in Ramadan without opening the Quran at all. The Quran was never meant to be treated like a book that is simply finished and closed. The Quran was revealed to awaken hearts, to guide lives, and to bring people closer to Allah. Allah reminds us in the Quran, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. The month of Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance for mankind and clear proofs of guidance and criterion. These words are powerful. Ramadan and the Quran are connected in a way that cannot be separated. The heart of Ramadan is the Quran. That is why the righteous people before us treated Ramadan as the season of the Quran. They increased their recitation. They reflected deeply on its meanings. Some of them would complete the Quran multiple times, not simply to finish it, but to allow its message to transform their hearts. The Quran has a special ability to revive a heart that feels empty. A person may feel lost, confused or distant from Allah, but when they sit with the Quran sincerely, something begins to change inside them, because these are not ordinary words. These are the words of the Creator speaking directly to His creation. Every verse carries guidance, every passage carries wisdom, every reminder carries light for the one who reflects upon it. But the benefit of the Quran is not only in reciting it. The true benefit comes when a person pauses and reflects. When you read a verse about the mercy of Allah, think about how that mercy applies to your life. When you read a verse about the day of judgment, imagine yourself standing before Allah on that day. When you read about the stories of the prophets, reflect on the patience and trust they had in their Lord. Slowly, the Quran begins to shape the way you see the world. It changes the way you think, the way you react, and the way you live. The last 10 nights of Ramadan are nights in which the Quran should become the center of your worship. These nights are not meant only for standing in long prayers. They are also meant for reconnecting deeply with the words of Allah. Even if you read only a few verses, read them with presence, read them with humility. Allow the Quran to speak to your heart. There are people whose lives changed completely because of a single verse they reflected upon sincerely. One verse reminded them of Allah's mercy and brought them back from years of distance. Another verse reminded them of the reality of the hereafter and changed the direction of their life. This is the power of the Quran. It is guidance for the lost. It is comfort for the broken. It is strength for the believer who is struggling. before the last 10 nights arrive, repair your relationship with the Quran. Make it a daily companion in your life. Let its words soften your heart and strengthen your faith, because the heart that lives with the Quran becomes alive with the remembrance of Allah. And a heart that is alive with the Quran will experience Ramadan in a completely different way. When the last 10 nights arrive, that heart will not feel distracted or empty. Instead, it will feel connected, hopeful, and ready to stand before Allah seeking His mercy. That is the heart that truly benefits from the blessings of Ramadan. My brothers and sisters, the fifth thing that must be repaired before the last 10 nights of Ramadan arrive is your relationship with dua. Dua is not something small in Islam. Dua is not something we do only when we are desperate. Dua is one of the most powerful forms of worship a believer has. It is the moment when a servant turns directly to Allah with humility, weakness, and complete dependence on Him. When you make dua, you are declaring something very powerful. You are declaring that Allah is the one who controls everything. You are declaring that your strength is limited, but Allah's power is unlimited. You are declaring that even when the entire world cannot solve your problem, Allah can change everything in a single moment. This is why dua is beloved to Allah. Yet many people have a weak relationship with dua. Some people only make dua when they are facing a serious problem. When life becomes difficult, when the heart becomes heavy, when fear enters the mind, suddenly they remember Allah and they begin making dua with urgency. But when the problem disappears, the dua slowly disappears as well. Others make dua with their tongues, but their hearts are distracted. The words are spoken quickly while the mind is somewhere else. There is no deep reflection, no humility, no presence of heart. And some people stop making dua altogether because they feel their prayers are not being answered. But the believer must understand something important. Allah never ignores the dua of His servants. Allah promises us in the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأْلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. And when my servants ask you about me, then indeed I am near. I respond to the call of the caller when they call upon me. Look carefully at the beauty of this verse. Allah does not say that He is distant. Allah says He is near. He hears every whisper of the heart. He knows every tear that falls in the darkness of the night. He knows the silent struggles that no one else sees. When a servant raises their hands and calls upon Allah sincerely, that moment is never ignored. Sometimes Allah answers the dua immediately. Sometimes Allah delays the answer because He knows the perfect time for it. Sometimes Allah gives something better than what we asked for. And sometimes Allah saves the reward of that dua for the day of judgment when we will need it more than anything else. Nothing that is asked sincerely from Allah is ever wasted. The last 10 nights of Ramadan are the most powerful nights for making dua. These nights are filled with mercy and forgiveness. During these nights, the believer has the opportunity to speak to Allah with a heart that is fully humbled. And among these nights is Laylatul Qadr, the night that is better than 1,000 months. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught a special dua to recite during these nights. Allahumma innaka afun tuhibbul afwa fa'afu anni. Reflect on the beauty of this dua. It begins by praising Allah. It acknowledges that Allah is Al-Afu, the one who erases sins completely, the one who does not only forgive but removes the trace of the sin entirely. Then the servant asks directly and sincerely, Fa'afu anni. So forgive me. Imagine repeating these words in the quiet of the night. Imagine standing in prayer with tears in your eyes, asking Allah to erase every mistake you have ever made. This moment can change everything. Some people carry the weight of years of sins in their hearts. They feel regret, they feel shame, they feel that their past is too heavy. But one sincere dua during these blessed nights can wipe away a lifetime of mistakes. The believer who understands the value of dua prepares their heart before the last 10 nights arrive. Begin strengthening your dua now. Speak to Allah often. Ask Him to guide your heart. Ask Him to forgive your past. Ask Him to protect your future. Ask Him to make you among those who witness Laylatul Qadr and are forgiven completely. And when you make dua, do not rush. Take your time. Speak to Allah like a servant who knows that their Lord hears every word. Because sometimes the most powerful moments of Ramadan are not the long prayers or the many recitations. Sometimes the most powerful moment is when a servant raises their hands in the darkness of the night and calls upon Allah with complete sincerity. That moment can change a person's destiny. That is why before the last 10 nights are